Welcome to my channel. My name's Dale Hawthorne, and today I'm going to be going over a book about creativity, dealing with your creativity. And it's a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And this is right here, my hard copy. And this is the picture of the cover, and it tells you about this. This is a best-selling book, and there are some elements in the book which may seem a little new agey and a little bit, maybe a little bit woo woo. Creativity can often get that if you get outside the bounds which I'm going to be talking about now. But unfortunately, sometimes something gets labeled as new age and Christians treat it like a plague. And I don't think this is one of those books. I think it's a real area for Christians to explore if you consider it wisely. And if you read this book and go with this book, I don't think you're going to get into anything that's really going to be harmful to you spiritually. And if you really consider some of the things in the right way, you might find it being actually quite helpful to you. So, if you want to come upon some more of my things I have to say about this, please click like and subscribe. I do deal with some artsy things and art and literature on my channel, mainly a Christian channel. So, and I also bring that into when I look at and interpret and share some biblical passages at length, and kind of like mini sermons. But consider this book too. So when we talk about creativity, creating something out of nothing, that's reserved for God alone. It's called creation ex nihilo, from nothing. Creativity itself, the type of creativity which we have bestowed upon us as humans, means that we shape and we customize these existing materials, things that are made out of the creation. We cooperate with others in fabricating those existing materials if we're doing something with physical, visual art, or something like that. And if we're dealing with literature, we're dealing with speech, communication, music, putting that to a musical background and so on. Those are all things part of the creation, sound, things that we see, things that we can make with our hands, so that we're not making anything really out of nothing. That's God alone. But we do have a certain part of creativity. I think that goes back to Deuteronomy chapter 8. You'll find a verse in there which talks about having God giving us the ability to create wealth, to create value. And part of our way that we think is definitely visual. We get into trouble if we think that when we visualize something that we're actually creating something. No, that's not true. It doesn't shape the material creation, and that's what our hands, our eyes, and our ears, and our mouth is for. Words for communication, writing and speech, hands for implementation of what our mind and our heart conceive and desire. And again, that has to be within realism. We can conceive and desire possible things, and we're not going to do them. And we do need to plan and draw and sketch out things very often to make our best art, although there are some times that depending on how deep we are in the preparation of our heart and understanding our area of our improvisation, we can come up with wonderful things just seemingly off the cuff, but there usually is considerable preparation and experience in the life before you do something like that. So creativity. We're not making something out of nothing. Our thoughts are, we're not affecting the material creation or the spiritual creation, but we're thinking about what we want to do to create wealth, value, things which appeal to us. And it has a real place in different areas, technical fields and scientific progress. Yeah, scientific progress does have an element of the imagination to it. I forget the author, but it's leaps of thought and imagination which lead to progress there. And maybe it could be, uh, some sources are saying that we haven't had that much scientific progress since the 1930s or so. Maybe it's because we're not giving enough free range for our imagination to look at things, consider things. Or you may be working as a software developer, as I did for many years. Creativity has a real place in that. We're not robots that generate code. We cannot be replaced by AI because I don't believe that AI can bring that level of creativity. You can generate code, but the code AI generates is often bug ridden, often plagiarized too. AI is in some ways, I'm going to be getting into it more, but I think that I've noticed my own personal blog that AI has access to at different times. So sometimes AI does, there is a lot of plagiarism there. So code, if you're developing a viable product to sell to someone, something commercially viable, something for which other people will pay money, support yourself, something that's good, has quality. Too many artists themselves get into the artsy idea, and visual, musical, and so on, and they may not be developing their products sufficiently. They may not charge sufficiently for what they should be charging for what someone will pay for it. And part of this working with creativity, to be able to evaluate and go through it, can provide the way for you to develop products, the output to a commercially viable level. And art really is personal satisfaction. There's a book by Edith Schaefer, which I read many years ago. I plan on buying it, called Hidden Art, which one of the big things in the Puritans themselves dressed plainly, but their houses were decorated very well. There was a lot of art that carried through. Edith Schaefer talks about how homemaking can bring personal art into the places where we dwell. Yeah, hidden art. So it doesn't have to be expert level, world class, not even commercially viable. But if it's attractive, and if it appeals to us, if it means stuff to us, yeah, our homes can be artistically decorated and enhanced. So, the artist's way, talking about creativity, real place of creativity in doing these things. There should be some definite caution and discernment when dealing with any book by any author. And I recommend that you would explore and consider this. Um, there are some quotes in here, some people I would consider kind of new agey, kind of iffy. Um, but you're not going to learn any anything from these about New Age or occult practices or ideology and so on in this book. There's another book which Julie Cameron, did later on, which does talk about talking with people, and I would say, unless you're a fiction author dealing with characters, it's probably not a good idea to talk to people who aren't there. So um, that's kind of the way it works out that way. And Julie Cameron does have some definitely some Christian background. I believe that she is a Roman Catholic by background, and so there are some things in there. I don't believe she is an evangelical Christian at all, but and that doesn't mean that she doesn't say some things which are valuable. Each chapter, as I think you go through, she talks about learning from others, art, making art dates and things like that. And a lot of the questions, activities, may give you to unlock your own past experiences, even your traumatic experiences now and in the past can help you to get unstuck from past traumas and bad experiences. And that's something that I think we as Christians need to do a lot more nowadays. Paul says, Romans chapter 8, we are more than conquerors in all these things through him who loved us. There's no need for us to get stuck and bogged down in our past traumas. Certainly, we learn from our past, we forgive people, we overcome. Ultimately, in eternity, if we're believers, we are more than conquerors through Jesus. And we can take, I think we need to take that spirit more and more into our art. The stories of people maybe how they've lived out conquering. Not to make the message over the story, but the story, if it's good, can show that message. And it's entirely scriptural to look at our past and learn from our past in light of Scripture especially. I think it's easy to get bogged down and ruminate over our past too much. Excessive rumination is a psychological weakness. But looking at our past in the light of Christian experience is a time-honored way of living as a believer. Psalms, last part of the book of Nehemiah, Psalms are all over dealing with a person's past and experiences in the light of Scripture. And oh yeah, Augustine's Confessions, dealing with his own life in terms of Scripture. He wrote it down for us. And prayer, Scriptures, so on. So, yeah, if we go into that, we're not doing anything specifically non-Christian, but something which has been a part of what Christians, believers, people who trust the God of the Bible have been doing for centuries. And as we consider some of these questions, I found a lot of the questions that she had were wonderful. They help us to find new purpose, new places to explore and inspire, and looking at our creation, being inspired by the creativity of others, and being able to take that creativity, those ideas, out to something which we communicate with others. We use, say, if we're writing something, we use proper English and punctuation and so on. If we express ourselves in a way which communicates with others and they appreciate what we've done. And this is kind of what I see. I've said Psalms and many Christian songs too, where people reflect upon their experience, they learn from experience with God, and they take it forward. If you're a pastor into preaching and teaching, but you can also take it forward if you're writing, if you're a musician, if you're even taking oil paint and drawing and stuff like that. Visual arts too. This includes them. So we can recognize that God can have real purpose for us in pursuing the arts, considering creativity, and going on a path, following a path of creativity, in some ways it is a journey. Scripture does talk about living as a journey. So this is part of can help us consider where we've been, where we're going, and what we want to do. And we don't have to live in a type of hard-bitten, regimented activities. Some of the hyper-fundamentalists among us, I think, they're so rigid they appreciate very little of the life that God has in this world. And if I could, I would bring them to a lot more understanding and seeing that, yes, we're looking forward to a perfect world in heaven for Jesus to return, but we still have a lot that we can appreciate around us that can be accepted with thanksgiving and gratitude and appreciation to God. And so I mentioned before something to avoid. Don't talk to people who aren't there unless you're really trying to a fiction writer trying to deal with that. You might find that and don't go into things which are occult and things like that, or New Age authors, but there are things here which can really help you. And there's some brainstorming, some idea generation techniques here. And if you're involved in product development, other areas of creativity too, there's I get a lot of book recommendations. Michael Thinker Toys, Michael, and there's a bunch of different idea generation things. So that's not new agey at all. That's just ways of directing and enhancing one's way of thinking. And prime market thinking, jogger thinking, director thinking, guidance on how to organize thoughts, courses of action, putting things together and seeing and coming up with new associations and things like just simple powers that we already have in our mind, which again, this is not new age. This is just simply thinking. Ways which people have thought for years, in which if you look that you can find that many of the greatest ideas, some great Christian literature, art has been done by these types of thinking and association. C.S. Lewis would got the idea of Aslan for the Chronicles of Narnia through the picture of a lion, which was coming through his dreams. And so, two last ones. Christian imagination itself. I can't recommend this one enough. Steve Turner, right here. Steve Turner. You can pause, and this is still in print. And for writers too, Ted Kooser. He was a past poet laureate of the United States. I had a chance to meet him at a writers' conference years ago, and a chance to hang around with him. And boy, that was one of the tremendous experience to be able to hear him cite his own poetry and things like that. So I hope this has been helpful. Just kind of rambling. I'm in a kind of a rambling mood today, so. But I hope this helps you. I hope this can guide you. Again, start with this book, The Artist's Way. Go over the questions, go over the experiences, read through the chapters, and maybe if you want to go into some other ideas, Thinker Toys, I would get, if you're involved in any sort of product development, that would be a good way to do it. Music and other art, Steve Turner's Imagine, writing, Ted Kooser, and writing Brave and Free. So, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention.